It hasn't really been a great year for Samuel Bolduc at the AHL level. So what's going on this year with the Islanders' second round pick from 2019? As always, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a video. Trying to get to 600. We're at 558. Let's keep going. Also, go to Twitter, follow at TLOMitch. That's me. Don't miss any breaking information I might share over Twitter that I haven't yet done on this channel. So what's going on with Samuel Bolduc this year? Last year, you'll remember, in 24 games for the then Bridgeport Sound Tigers, he had 14 points through 24 games, 6 goals, 8 assists. This year, through 21 games, flat old 0. Pretty comparable sample size, very different results. So what's going on here? Well, I want to bring up two things. First is, we know he started the year injured, right? He missed Islanders training camp. He missed a portion of the AHL season as well and their training camp. So he started things late this year, right? He doesn't benefit from a training camp and he doesn't benefit from the same training camp and conditioning that the other players have already received. So he's got to catch up on the fly. So that sets him back a little bit. And from a recent video, at least from a goal against, you can see where maybe the injury is probably still kind of there. Right, on this play, the player is going outside of Bolduc trying to get around him, and does. And Bolduc isn't really caught flat-footed per se. He's already skating back, but has a trouble or a hard time catching up to the player and adjusting to when he cuts inside. And for a player with Samuel Bolduc's skating ability, that shouldn't be an issue. There's a play last year, and I'll show you right here, where it's essentially the same thing, just on the other side of the ice, and he has no problem at all. Obviously different players, so probably different skill sets that he's approaching here, but the play is still the same, and he seems to have no problem. So there could be something there, right? When you look at the play from this year that I just brought up, it seems that he has a hard time adjusting his feet, like the mechanics are kind of off in terms of what he's doing, which could suggest that there might be some lingering effects to the injury he sustained at the beginning of the year. The second thing that I want to bring up is, what is Samuel Bolduc's role this year, and what are the priorities for his development? Because you'll remember that the AHL is first and foremost a development league, right? That's why they've got the development rule, or the veteran rule, if you will, right? Where only so many number of veterans can play because they want to focus more on developing younger players. That's the role of the AHL. And when it comes to developing players, their priorities aren't always the same. It's not always just go out there and score a bucket load of points and see what happens. There's a little bit more structure to it. Remember Oliver Wahlstrom from a couple of years ago? Barry Trotz had him for 9 games at the NHL level and said, this kid hasn't learned the game yet, right? He's got to learn the game, were the words he actually used. And what it means there is he needs to learn systems, he needs to learn to play with his teammates, and he needs to learn how to play off the puck. And so he did that at the AHL level. The 1 year he spent there, the first half of the season, didn't really put up a lot of points because that's what he was focusing on. Off the puck play, learning how to use your teammates, and learning the system. That's what he was focused on. When he got those 3 things, by the second half of the year, the points started coming because he was applying the first lessons, or the first 3 lessons that he needed to learn, and combined that with the raw talent and skill that he already had to put up a bucket load of points, and started doing so. That could be the same thing for Samuel Bolduc. Now, how do we figure out if that's what they're doing? Because obviously Brent Thompson isn't just coming out and saying like, Samuel Bolduc is just playing more defensive hockey and that's what we're doing. That's why he's not scoring points. He's not saying that, and he won't come out and say that either. They're not going to go and like, here's our plan for X prospect. They're not going to do that. So how do we try to decipher that? It's kind of hard, obviously, because there isn't a whole lot of data at the AHL level. We got points and what aspect of the game they're scoring it in, whether shorthanded power play or 5-on-5. And we've got shot data. That's about it. That's all we've got. So how do we go and build our assumption of what his role is? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use who he's playing with and how many shots they and Samuel Bolduc are getting on net respectively. And what I'm trying to do here is say like, well, is he being paired with a player that is doing more offensively than he is? Is that player's role more offensively minded, as in getting more shots towards the net, than Samuel Bolduc? And the way I'm doing that, again, is we don't have Wowie stats, we don't have time on ice data, is I'm going based off of lineup cards. Who is Brent Thompson sending Samuel Bolduc out there with every game? And of course, you'll say that, well, there's fluidity throughout the game and it doesn't stick to that. True, but when it comes to the blue line, they stick to it pretty well. So who is Samuel Bolduc going out there with more frequently? Well, it's Paul Ledoux, 6 games, Grant Hutton, 4 games, and Mike Cornell, 4 games. And of course, you'll say, well, he's played more than just 14 games this year. And yes, you're right. But after that, it trails off to be like a 7D once, Parker Witherspoon once, and Thomas Hickey once. That doesn't really give a clear picture of who he's being paired with in terms of trying to decipher what his role is. So then shots. Well, who's getting more shots based off of those pairs? We know that Samuel Bolduc has 19 shots through 21 games, which is low for him. That's 0.91 shots per game so far this year. Last year, he had 49 shots through 24 games, 2.04 shots for per game. So essentially doubling what he was doing this year, or what he is doing this year. Okay, so we know he's getting less than 1 shot for per game. What about the other guys? Well, when it comes to Paul Ledoux, mixed 2 names there. Paul Ledoux, 1.78 shots for per game. Grant Hutton, 2.23 shots for per game. Mike Cornell, 1.25. It's clear there, just looking at that the guys he's being paired with are asked to do a little bit more offensively, or given more free reign to do more offensively. Sure, there might be some tendency bias there, where like Grant Hutton might be more biased to shooting the puck than Samuel Bolduc. But when you look at last year's data, where Bolduc is averaging 2 shots or more per game, Bolduc likes to shoot. He likes to shoot it hard. We know that. We've seen it happen last year. So when I look at this data, to me it says that Samuel Bolduc is learning how to be more of a defensive player, and his role is that of less of an offensive first defenseman and more of a consistent 2-way defenseman. Now, does that mean we shouldn't be concerned? No, of course there should be some concern there, right? Like, we're 21 games in and he has 0 points. For someone who's put up 14 points last year in 24 games, you'd still expect him to get something there. And the fact that there's no points is still a cause for concern, even if he's being asked to do just more defensively and less offensively. There's still concern there, but I wouldn't say he's done, it's a bust, it's over for Bolduc. What I would say is, let's take the full season to see what happens here. But as it stands now, we can maybe justify some of the lack of production, just some, based off of the fact that he's still seemingly recovering from his injury, and it seems like he's maybe not being asked to do as much offensively. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you have not subscribed yet, remember, we're trying to get to 600. Help us get there. Hit the subscribe button. And if you have, thank you, thank you, thank you.